Blog Talk Radio. Good morning and welcome to Unlimited Realities with Lisa Zimmer. I'm Lisa, and I'm here to introduce Jeff Brown, author of Soul Shaping, who today we're going to have a bit of a humorous show, hopefully enlightening, hopefully humorous. We're introducing Vinnie Brownerini. Let me get it right. And he's the evolving male who's coming from a place of really wanting to open up his heart, really wanting to show who he is and his essence, struggling with all of life and what life has to throw at him and in his thoughts and how he proceeds. So first, let me introduce author of Soul Shaping, Jeff Brown. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Pleasure, Lisa. Always a pleasure to connect with you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on as well. You're such a light. And now we're going to introduce a real fun guy, no mushroom, but fun. And his name's Vinnie Brownerini. And we're going to first get into the apologies of the Divine Feminine because really Vinnie kind of resonated with this and really felt moved and compelled to come out of hiding after this was published and went online. So I'm going to begin with reading a little bit of the apologies of the Divine Feminine, and then we'll get into some questions and dialogue. How's that sound, Jeff?
That sounds good. Vinny's not really happy with the way you introduced him, but we'll get to that later.
We'll get into Vinny after a few parts of this apology. How
Making
about that?
Noises. Yeah, okay.
You know, well, I hear him back there. You know, I hear him. I figure he's clearing his voice and getting ready there. So I figured I'd give him a few
he's spinning
moments
something up. I don't know what he's. Yeah, we'll find out soon.
Rough night,
sure.
eh?
Yeah, he did. He fell into old habits, didn't you? Yeah, he did.
Well, you know, old habits are meant to be broken. So it's good to come up, rising to the top.
If only you'd look at them.
Dealing with. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, let's start with the apology.
Okay, here we go with the apologies to the Divine Feminine. And this is from a warrior and in transition.
Yes. I
apologize for my inability to distinguish the benevolent warrior from the heartless warrior, a reflection of my own confusion dealing with the battlefields of yore. When I opened my heart too wide, I was vulnerable to attack from warring factions, and I was conditioned to believe that I had to stay rigid, focused, prepared for any eventuality in the desire to protect myself and others from the attack, but I went too far and closed too tight and eradicated the bridge between our hearts. I am seeing this now, and I am sorry. I apologize for my perpetual absence, a reflection of my own inner absence, my inability to connect from a heart jammed tight by unresolved emotions that I did not have the tools to work through. I still lack many of these tools, but I'm open to their emergence. All right, I'm going to stop there, Jeff. So just in dealing with that little piece of the apology, was that coming from a place of a past knowing? Was that coming from a place of understanding for the first time what a benevolent warrior and a heartless warrior were?
Well, I don't know. I think I think a lot of the apology was lodged in my experience in this lifetime. You know, I mean, I had a lot of glimpses and developed kind of a witnessing capacity to recognize my own warrior nature. You know, it appeared really early in my life, in my childhood, fighting forever with my family and kind of choosing that path rather than avoiding it or sidestepping it. And then as my journey unfolded, you know, it became clear that I had sort of archetypal history. It seemed some kind of past life carryover, something threaded through me that was had experience, particularly of malevolent warrior. And it just became clear that my movement in this lifetime was not to shed warrior, although that was what I thought was going to happen, but really more to kind of meld my warrior into something more heartfelt in the direction of more benevolent warrior. So I don't know. I think this whole apology came from some combination of archetypal experience and some kind of sacred transmission, and definitely my personal experience, that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask Vinnie some questions here? Is he ready to be introduced and come to the forefront here?
Hi, Lisa.
Vin, how you doing?
I had a rough night.
Did you?
Yeah, I fell back into what Jeff calls an old pattern.
Well, Vinnie, don't beat yourself up, because these things happen, and they come up for reasons that we need to explore and really just kind of like merge through it. So don't beat yourself up over it, Vinnie.
No, I went a little too far. It's okay, though.
Well, Vinnie, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as the heartless warrior or the benevolent warrior, or a little bit of a combo of the two?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very fine line. I mean, I think it's very difficult to have a man go out into the world and deal with the marketplace and the warring nature of humanity, and just always stay connected to his heart with his actions. It's how do you do that? How do you put on your armor and get yourself into a state like a snorting bull, ready to take on the world, to protect yourself and others, and then always remember not to go too far? I think this is a very unrealistic expectation.
And I think that, you're right, because in so many ways, we are, as a society, trying to tweak man. And, instead of tweaking man, I think that there's a real need to really accept and embrace the man. And yet, at the same point, there's that little piece of man that's also, wanting to evolve. And as you have experienced yourself, Vinnie, an evolving soul and evolving heart. So, as you're going through this evolution, do you feel that, that you can go in? I mean, I know that it's hard. It's hard to, stay centered in that heart. It's hard to, come from there constantly. But do you feel like you're able to go there when need be, that, when something really triggers you emotionally, you're able to tap into that a little easier? And what does that feel like? Is it uncomfortable for you? Is it something that you're getting used to? Is it something that is foreign and you're having to kind of learn as you go?
Well, I don't like to diss the man, because I think what's happened in the feminist movement is that we went very far. In Jeff's latest apology, he spoke to that, the pushing, the man down, not honoring that which was good about him. And so for me, I'm in psychotherapy now, so
good for you.
I'm dealing with some of my emotional things, but at the same time, I'm still allowing myself to be in the healthier parts of my masculinity in the way that I move through the world, because I think that it's important to honor the man while, at the same time working to change some of our patterning.
Amen. That's beautifully stated, and quite an evolved statement, Vinnie. It's you've come a long way with the psychotherapist. I'm quite impressed.
Well, I help her too. I help her too because she's stuck in that too. And I call her on that, and she thanks me for that too. Because I remember how my papa used to be, and even though he was edgy and had to handle the boys and had to handle this business, which was not always clean, I admit that to be true. But at the same time, he took care of us in a very loving way. He made us French fries on Sunday mornings. He did things to show his love for us. So it's more complicated than people think.
Well, and it's also, there's that piece of I really agree with the feminist movement pushing it a little too far, because it left men kind of really confused about where their role was and how they really define themselves. So I think it actually pushed men further down into hiding
Yes.
their heart and hiding themselves. And then you have, the feminine movement, which supported strong women. And dear God, I mean, in a world of strong women and men, fearful of expressing their heart, where do we go with that? Right?
No.
Jeff,
No.
help me.
Nowhere. Oh. Hold on.
No, I think
where do we go with a man who's really trying to come out like Vinnie, and yet at the same point not really being supported by society or his peer group or his friends? Because Vinnie's from he's from a traditional role of personalities that are very dominant in their masculinity, and he really wants to come out a little bit with his heart. So there's not a lot of support for Vinnie, in his environment.
Yeah.
How does he seek support? How does he get support? Where can he go besides his psychotherapist?
Well, Vinnie and I talk a lot. Too much actually, but it's not that easy. He found his way into psychotherapy, which I think is very important for him to get support for the process. He also gets a lot of body work. He gets a lot of deep tissue work because at some point he recognized that there was some connection between the armoring in his physical body and the armor around his emotional body. And I think that's a very important part of the process. So he gets touched and he gets relaxed and he gets open. So he has an experience of something softer or more surrendered or more receptive, than his edge. Some of the things that helped me, I did a lot of bioenergetics. So I did a lot of anger work. It's not about getting rid of all of those intense emotions. It's about learning how to move from a more benevolent source spring. So, for example, instead of acting out in the direction of somebody in your immediate environment, you get a cube in your house and you have a bat and you move anger like bioenergetics people do by hitting the foam cube, for example. So you start to shift it in realistic and subtle directions in a way that's less harmful and actually allows you to have the kind of release that doesn't lead to more guilt and shame after the fact. And he's doing that. He's still a snorting bull, but not as often as he used to be.
No, and he's quite gentle, having had a rough night and all. He's coming across really with a very soft and open heart, and it's really appreciated for the show and in interviewing him. It's great. Hey, Vinnie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Lisa. I'm always
here. Vinnie,
always here.
Do you feel that you're developing tools, whether it's through the psychotherapist or actually your perceptual changes as you're viewing life and things, your feelings, other people, connections to others? Do you feel like you're developing more tools to really bring out that authentic heart and that truth that kind of has stayed buried for eons and is encouraged to stay buried with environment as well?
Well, first, Lisa, let me say, I like you, that, but in a way you're sort of talking a little, implying I'm a dinosaur who has to change all of these things. So I get a little defensive, I am now able to spot that and admit that to you here.
Okay.
I do feel as though I am growing. I am growing in the directions of being more communicative with some measure of subtlety. Whereas before, if somebody asked me these questions, I would have just said "fuck you" and got off the phone, right? So now I have you here. I stay in the process with you, right? I use words like process. They annoy me. A lot of times the words Jeff uses annoy me. But at the same time, there is a part of me that recognizes that they have some merit, a little bit of merit, So, for example, my kid pissed me off the other day. And so whereas before I would have just flung the breakfast at him. I was so annoyed with what he did. But instead, I go for a walk. I play some tennis. I move my anger. So when I talk to him, have an interface later in the day, I'm more available to it. Like that. It's small steps. It has to be small steps.
It is small steps, and that's really how it really starts to implement and stay stuck within our being. All right, so I know that this is probably going to be one of those questions that pisses you off, and you may get a little defensive on it, but I'm going to go with it anyway because, hey,
okay.
Then we understand each other. We're